Here's a successful graft. This is a cleft graft. So you carve a chisel on your scion, and then you clip off a piece of the branch and you slice it down vertical, and then you insert it in so that the cambium layers line up. And this one I could tell it took because it's putting energy into the top part. This is a cherry stick on a plum tree. Actually, it's a dapple dandy pluot with a cherry graft on it. So now this little graft will pollinate this Dave Wilson tree, the dapple dandy pluot. Kind of cool. A little plum apricot. I took some pixie cut grafts too. I'm just kind of grafting them just for practice. I'm not trying to undermine, the patents. I respect Dave Wilson. I've bought tons of his trees. Look at all those trees. Most of them are probably from, a nursery. I do propagate trees, but I do respect patents. And you should too. But just for practicing grafting, not a big deal. So now what I have here is a candle and a torch. I'm going to melt wax inside the candle and then make it kind of soft and massage wax into this graft to protect it from the elements. But what that'll do is it'll allow this, budwood, this graft to grow without being constricted by plastic. Plastic will be like a tourniquet and restrict its growth. I want it to heal, but I also want it to begin to grow and callus over. So I thought I'd share that with you. There's a few of them in the yard that are actually taking off and budding out pretty well, so it's kind of exciting. We can go look at another one. So here's another cherry graft. That's gonna live. Those buds are swelling out. So one thing I can mention with this other one here that I started with, I went down the stick, and any buds that were starting to sprout, I had to rub them off. Like that. Because I want the energy of this branch to not go into little spurs. I want it to go up to here, where this grafting union is. So you can do that too. This one I notched it. Let's see. Right there. That notch is almost, it's starting to heal. But those little notches above the graft, I believe, helps it. A little black walnut. Trying to push it to grow tall. I want it to grow straight up. And then umbrella out. I don't want it to bush out real big right here, even though I left like a big clearing around here. Pretty much all the way to there. But I still want it to grow tall and then branch out so it kind of shades the house. Each tree gets a grape to grow along with it. Here's another one. This other one will probably live too. The bud grafts. I'm still pretty new with the bud grafts. Where you make a little tea. But the cleft grafts are super easy, and once you get the hang of it, you can knock out lots of them. So this one's gonna take. And they're all over the yard, little grafts. Eventually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect the branches to all these trees. So this tall branch, I'm going to connect it to that plum. And that plum and this plum are going to support each other. And then that plum and that apricot. And the apricot and that multi-graft cherry. And eventually maybe that multi-graft cherry way over there. And then this little cluster is going to connect with that one. And then there'll probably be a decent separation. But these four over here, they're going to connect together. So they're going to be like wedding gazebos of trees everywhere of similar type that are kind of supporting each other through grafting unions, where they fuse together and feed into each other. By the way, you can see the top of that plum, or that peach tree. There's a plum graft on it from a few years ago, and it's taken off. Right there. So this stuff does work, and it's kind of fun to do. When I trim a tree, none of that goes to waste either. These pomegranates are some of the larger cuttings. And then orange and lemons all the way through. Sometimes I put my cups from out of my car in there and then deal with them later. That's a cutting. It's actually a gift from my buddy Mark at work. It's a fig. Got all these oranges and pomegranates. And you know that it's growing roots because you're going to get little growth like that. That same growth is happening below the soil as roots. So at my nursery, when I see those little small branches begin to grow, I know that it's getting roots and I can transplant it into something more serious, like a 5-gallon pot. Otherwise it stays in like a paper cup or Dixie cup. Little kumquat tree. So that's going to be scion wood to graft onto lemon clones and orange trees and things like that. So, and tangerine trees. So when I prune these, I'm either going to clone them, raise them up and give them away as gifts to people or whatever. Plant this place out till it's a jungle in here full of food. A food jungle. Or I'm going to pass these around to people. Here's one from a few years ago that never took. Sorry about the focus. Never took. But I did a newer one. This one might take. Some of them will and will not take, so it's just numbers game. I don't want to clip all the good branches off of each tree to try to get them to have a different kind of branch, and then if they don't take, kind of screwed over. So what I'm going to do is chip away at it over the years. Every year, do a few dozen grafts, and ones that take, all right, good. The ones that don't take, clip them off, and then future years, we'll try again. Eventually it'll be one homogeneous amoeba of trees, all supporting each other's growth and creating like a web Yeah, I might have to plant them a little bit denser together, but it'll be like a web. Maybe even intermingled, so like the stone fruits will be webbed together, but in that same forest of webbed trees, there'll be like webbed apples and pears, so that it's all just like some kind of banyan tree. I noticed that happens a lot with the willow tree too, where it creates like a web of branches and they fuse together. So something to think about. I'll keep you posted on my little journey. This little teeny tiny food forest jungle. I'm gonna be pretty sick in just a few years.